Welcome to the Mindset Lady. Today we will talk about Netflix series Love is Blind Season 1 Men. How can we detect insecurities of men is the subject of this video. If you haven't watched Love is Blind and if you hate spoilers, please don't watch this video. Go watch season 1 first and then come back later. And also I want to remind you, I'm a mindset coach. I have a life coaching diploma and a master's in critical thinking, but I'm not a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist, and that's why I want to emphasize here that I'm not diagnosing anybody here. My purpose is solely self-help reasons, so that you can detect this kind of behavior in you, in your relationships, and you can prevent it from going downhill or failing. We all have insecurities. As women, we are more verbally talking about those feelings to others. With men, it's kind of hard to read it, and sometimes they don't even realize that they are feeling insecure. We already talked about Carlton before, which I do feel had a lot of insecurities, and he himself already mentions all of these in the show, so you can go watch this episode right here that I prepared for you. In this video, I'm going to talk about Barnett.
My name is Barnett. I'm 27 years old and I live in Canton, Georgia.
Barnett connected with 3 women in Love is Blind. It was very tough for him to choose. And from the very beginning, what I felt about Barnett is that he is mostly interested in physical looks rather than the emotional connection, because, watch this.
I always go for pretty girls. It's shallow to say, but it's the truth.
Who were y'all feeling?
None of them, because we're just through a wall.
So he said like, oh, none of them I could feel anything because there was a wall. Well, that's going to change, but at least in the beginning, that's how he was feeling. In episode 1, right away, Barnett confesses his fear.
I'm nervous about being myself and getting hurt and hurting people. So I'm also, I'm afraid of opening up and losing that connection. Mark is a passionate guy and he's excited about Jessica a lot.
So when we look at his body language, he's sitting like this, right? With men, covering their genital parts like this with their hands shows insecurity, defensive mode. So you are kind of defending yourself from something, that a danger, a potential danger you're seeing maybe around you. And here when he's talking about his fear, I think it makes sense that he is sitting like this. So if you see your guy, you know, waiting like this or sitting like this, it's usually they're not feeling comfortable, they're feeling defensive and probably stressed out. And he says,
I don't want to throw my heart out there and just like actually be, hurt.
I don't want to throw my heart out there and be hurt. That's vulnerability, right? I just don't want to be hurt. I'm afraid of making this connection. When we start a new relationship, guys, we are mostly excited, right? Like, oh my God, you should have seen her. Like, she's so beautiful, or she's so nice, and she makes me smile. I'm so excited about this. We don't start a relationship with a worry. Once we start a relationship with a worry that you're gonna get hurt, that means you have some insecurity.
Don't make this one-sided.
Jessica.
So you see Barnett hugging the pillow, covering himself with the blanket. You know when we do this? When we want to comfort ourselves. So the pillow is a comforter. You're hugging something and just you're getting kind of a support. When you cover yourself with blanket, it's another way of calming yourself, comforting yourself. This is another way of covering yourself. You're not doing this, but you are kind of hiding, but at the same time comforting with the blanket. It's interesting because you know how he made himself very small here, like a child, like almost a fetus position. That's also when we are so vulnerable and we are defensive, we got that kind of body shape. He feels that Jessica is talking to another guy and he fears that she's going to go away. He won't be able to explore this relationship further. His fear is about also getting hurt, as he said, so he makes a mistake out of this.
If this place had nobody, no other guys and no other girls, like I would propose to you tomorrow.
He says, I would propose you tomorrow, and that's going to change the whole thing. It's going to become like, oh, he proposed to me. And actually, that's not what he's doing here. He was feeling so insecure there that he wanted to make sure that Jessica was still an option by not going to Mark. But of course, he didn't realize then what his words were going to cause. So, in episode 2, Barnett talks to Rory, another contestant in Love is Blind, and I think he's actually very good at psychology, human psychology. That's why a lot of people ask him questions. He is asking all the right questions to Barnett. And here, Barnett reveals something important about his mindset.
I mean, that's my problem with every relationship or every person that I talk to. It's like I get in there and I want to have a good time.
I want to have a good time. I think both women and men sometimes think that when they have fun in a relationship, they cannot go deep. Or if they have a very deep conversation with someone, you cannot have fun with them. That's not true. With the right partner, you can go deep, but at the same time, you have the most fun of your life. But what I think Barnett is trying to say here, that I like to stay on the surface, I like to have fun, because I'm afraid to go deep, because if I scratch the surface, people can see my insecurities, and I don't want that. Did you know a lot of comedians are the ones who had the most traumas in their lives, or who had the biggest insecurities sometimes? The reason is because in years, as a defense mechanism, we learn how to hide our feelings, our true feelings, by making high quality jokes and making people laugh so that they won't go deep with us. Especially if you're a person who is afraid of getting hurt, it is normal that you want to stay at a superficial level with your date. But if we are talking about marriage here, yes, as Rory said, you need to explore further. You need to learn how to become vulnerable.
How do you feel about you and Elsie on paper?
I think we would always have a good time. I think that because, we're so similar.
I want to add something about similarity. Like, do you have to be the twin of your date or your partner? No. It's good to have common interests, like, oh, she likes traveling too, or, she's into movies as well, or maybe she loves sushi. I love sushi too. These are okay. Or maybe political views, or how you view religion. These might be really important things in the relationship when you're on the same page. But, for example, a person can be very organized, your partner might be very disorganized. I think it's better for you, because then you balance each other, because maybe you are too organized and she's very disorganized, very messy. Or you can be very good with money and she's not very good with money. In Barnett's case, we see that. And maybe that's how actually they match each other. In most of the relationships, we usually say opposites attract, and there's a reason for it, because we don't want someone exact copy of us. We want someone to complete us, strengthen our weak parts, and allow us to strengthen their weaknesses. In episode 3, we see Barnett is very torn between these 3 ladies.
I haven't been vulnerable in a long time, and I haven't been open in a long time with anybody. It makes me feel good to know that someone on the other side of that wall cares about me.
He says that it's hard to make a choice. I'm trying to figure out my heart. And Jessica was very upset with him. He's like, I'm done with you because you almost proposed me last night, and now you're saying that you couldn't make your decision yet. I'm not in it. I'm out. And Barnett is very sad after hearing this. It's like, why I cannot figure this out?
I look like a freaking fool, and I have all these conversations with someone, and I tell them how I feel, and I tell them that they're strong in my mind, and
when you look at his body language again, you see 2 things. When he's covering his mouth, which is again feeling insecure, feeling stressed, a high stress, anxiety, and then he blocks his face. Like, we do this when we don't want to deal with the person in front of us or the situation. It's like, it's very hard for us to process, so we are blocking it. I don't want to see it. I can't deal with it right now. Either we take time to think about this, we block ourselves from outside, or we just block ourselves to get defensive. So we are defending ourselves right now. And this is what he is doing. And he starts crying. It's an interesting word choice. I look like a fool. I'm telling my feelings.
I look like a freaking fool. And like, I have all these conversations with someone and I tell them how I feel and I tell them that like they're strong in my mind.
Unfortunately, in almost any culture right now, Western, Eastern, doesn't matter, men are raised in a way that, shh, don't speak about your feelings. It's bad. Don't become vulnerable. They will use this against you. Like, you can't cry. You need to be tough. And this is why it is very hard for them to talk about their feeling when they grow up. They see this as a weakness, but it's not. It's on the contrary, is the best way to communicate. In this show, and also in many couples in real life that I encountered, I see that open communication always wins. And open communication means openly talking about your feelings, your hurt feelings, your fears, most importantly, maybe your past traumas, what affected you, what shaped you into you. Here in episode 3, when he's in between two women, he's making his choice and he says that I'm in fear that something intense will start and it's just going to fizzle out.
I have a huge fear of having this initial spark with someone and it just fizzling out.
Maybe I need to choose something that is not as intense like LC, because it freaks us out. When something is very intense, we are afraid to lose it. And that's called a little bit of self-sabotage, because why are you so afraid of such intensity? You deserve that intensity. When we are afraid of losing something when we gain it, that means we are already starting self-sabotaging ourselves. It's almost like somebody tells you that, hey, you got promotion and you're gonna start your new position in 6 months. What if I'm fired in those 6 months? What if I can never get that promotion? What if the company go bankruptcy? Like, we started to think all these negative thoughts right away instead of thinking about what to do more with that promotion and how you can, invest that money into your future and celebrate that new position. That's what he's doing actually. But he doesn't self-sabotage, guys. That's why he's not under my self-sabotage series. He chose Amber, with whom he made the intense connection.
I just don't want to hurt someone, and I know it's gonna happen. And I'm like, I'm feeling the fucking pain right now.
I just don't want to hurt anybody, and I know it's gonna happen. You can feel he's very stressed out, and you can see he's like eye blocking, and this is like, I'm feeling the pain right now. When we do eye blocking, again, we don't want to deal with this. We don't want to see it. We don't want to think about it. So he's avoiding it. He's just like, even thinking about it makes him really, really anxious. This was really tough on him, we can tell. But I kind of like it because it's not a decision that you should take lightly, This is someone you want to really marry. And these kind of reactions almost tell me that, he's taking this experience very seriously.
It's not ULC.
Like, you just don't have any regard for what you're doing to people. You're not really the person I thought you were, honestly.
Even when he's talking about it's not ULC, he cannot look as if she's there. It's, again, eye blocking. It's so stressful that I don't want to see this. It's also showing a lot of fear. This tells me that, maybe in his life he had not been that confrontational before, and it's hard to confront. And he knows for sure that she's going to be hurt. Probably she's going to hurt him back, and that's what he's getting defensive about.
Will you marry me?
See the difference? When he has the confidence, he's looking directly, although he's like, still anxious because he's covering his mouth, but he's like directly looking at the glass. Will you marry me? And he takes a deep breath because he can hear her giggling. It's like she's going to say yes. He knew it then.
Look at me. Look at me. Oh, I'm gonna make you the most stressed out girl in the world.
So the way he talks, again, like, do you see his hands like that? Still feeling a little bit like, hey, what does she look like? And am I gonna like her physically and stuff like that? Probably he's thinking that, and that's why that's coming from. The way that he raises his shoulders shows that, you know, he's excited and he's being a little goofy here, and that's good. That's good energy. That means excitement, right? But still, we feel that he had insecurities there too.
I already told you I love you, right?
Yeah.
I do love you.
Yeah.
And that last sitting after the proposal ended, like, look at how his legs are open, he's laying his back on the couch, and it means that he's comfortable with his decision. He's relaxed, finally relieved, like that he made a decision and he's happy about it. And finally, doors open and they see each other for the very first time.
Let's take that drop, come on. I'm nervous as hell. What if she doesn't like me? I don't know.
What if she doesn't like me? I don't know. Do you see the insecurity there? And we never hear from Amber saying like, I hope he likes what I look like, because she is confident about herself.
Oh gosh.
Hell yeah, this is the fucking right decision. Yeah.
Damn, I'm lucky. I wasn't nervous at all, but damn. I was a little nervous.
Do you see how happy he is about his decision working out in the end, because he had such a tough time deciding, and he's just like, oh, I made the right decision.
I'm so glad I didn't let my stupid brain fuck this up.
I'm so glad my stupid brain didn't fuck this up. Guys, don't call your brain stupid, okay? You know, a little bit of self-compassion. Missing self-compassion might lead to insecurities in our lives, so just love yourself, love your decisions, even though they're not the best decisions in the world. Just own to them and say that, you know, I made that decision, didn't work out, but I still love myself. I'm gonna make better decisions next time.
Getting engaged has always been something that scared me.
We're getting married in a few weeks.
It's scary, and, you know, the possibility that, you know, she could just have doubts and say no.
So Barnett is scared in episode 4 and their honeymoon, saying that, you know, this can still crash and burn. I don't know. I don't want it to be. Or she can say no. She might have some doubts. Well, obviously she doesn't, by the way. She seems very sure about this relationship since the beginning. But Barnett has already started thinking about all these scenarios in his mind, which kind of scares me that he might self-sabotage in the end, because he has the relationship that he wants right now. But all these catastrophic scenarios that could happen is putting him in a scared mood. I'm glad Barnett didn't go through paralysis analysis, because he seemed like a guy like that who analyzes every little detail to make the best decision, and that perfectionism can stop us from making the right decisions sometimes, because every choice in life doesn't work that way. Sometimes we need to take the leap of faith and trust our guts. So again, for ladies to spot on men the behavior and the body language, when you see Jessica and Barnett talking by the poolside, you can look at their bodies. Jessica is more closer to him, wants to be closer to him, and Barnett is leaning backwards. That's the body language that, hey, I don't want to be close to you, whereas Jessica is trying to be closer to him. Also, when you look at where your knees are pointing, you can see that Jessica's body is turned towards Barnett and Barnett's body is turned right away from her. This means like, hey, I'm putting a distance here. I'm putting a boundary here. And she's trying to cross that boundary, but he's not gonna allow her to. That's one thing.
I mean, I got really emotionally invested in that, and then I feel like you did too.
I mean, I'm happy, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy, so very good. And then there's a party, and in that party, Jessica approaches Barnett again, and I think with the influence of alcohol, she's trying to initiate something, but that doesn't work because Barnett is that set on Amber. We can see that from the beginning. I just want to say something about, again, body language, guys, how secure he is about his decision, because you can see his body language. He crossed his leg and his feet is looking towards Jessica. If it was the other way around, if he rested his right leg on his left knee, then his right knee would be exposed to Jessica, and with that alcohol influence, I am almost 99% sure that Jessica would touch his knee while she was talking. But he doesn't allow that to happen. Subconsciously, he does this kind of crossing leg position. And again, his body is turned towards the other friends, not to Jessica, but he's still listening and he's giving the full attention by looking into her eyes. He's not being disrespectful, but again, he is beautifully setting the boundary there. So this shows how secure he feels about his relationship. Now, look at, there was a ping pong ball thrown at their side and Jessica kind of bended over to touch the ball, but she couldn't. Anyway, with that excuse, Barnett made a very smart move and he switched to the end of the sofa that he is sitting at. So now there's even a bigger gap between Jessica and him because Jessica is getting closer and closer and he's getting away from her. So when you see that kind of body language from a guy, ladies, that means they're not into you, so you can just leave. Barnett meets Amber's family. It goes well, there's nothing there. But when Amber is going to be introduced to Barnett's family, we see that both of them got really anxious.
Amber's personality with my family makes me nervous because they are more on the conservative side. I think one of the biggest things in my life is I've always wanted to do what my family thinks is best, I guess.
I always wanted to do what my family think is best. This is, again, something we see in a lot of people, but mostly in men. They feel they owe a lot of things to their families that a lot of children feel growing up. Because he was very afraid of making a mistake or making the wrong choice and being that perfectionist. It makes me think that maybe in his family, making everything right was kind of a norm, like making a mistake was not very welcome. I don't know his family, so I'm not going to talk on behalf of his family, but in general, people who are afraid to make mistakes or afraid that they're going to disappoint their family or others, maybe their environment, they usually grow up in very strict parenthood. The rules are strict and the application of those rules are strict. So in your adulthood, you still find it difficult to break.
I'm scared of disappointing them. I'm scared of doing something wrong in their eyes.
So if a kid was punished when he disappointed the family somehow, this kind of is carried through our adulthood as well. And also sometimes they don't have to be strict or they don't have to punish their children, but the child might grow up in a way that they feel like they owe everything they have to their family, and that kind of becomes a burden, and that burden becomes a reason to self-sabotage. By making a choice that makes you really happy, makes you really successful, but it breaks the family rules, then you might feel not ready to take that leap and you might say no. But Barnett, again, positively surprised me in that. So he had the potential of self-sabotage, but he never chose that road. Good for him.
And I'm just a little scared I'm gonna say the wrong thing.
What's up, guys?
Oh God, I'm like, holy crap. I'm freaking out. What is this?
Chillax.
Hi, darling, how are you?
Guys, if you're so scared of saying the wrong thing, then you're gonna say that wrong thing. So you need to calm yourself down. Try to get rid of that worry because we attract what we are most worried of. Well, he warned her that my family is a little bit conservative, and again, she kind of makes these jokes that you're not supposed to make in the first meeting of a family, right? Especially when you don't know them that well. But again, if you're so worried of saying the wrong thing, you say the wrong thing. That's as I said.
So what's the worst thing that you've learned of Matt?
Besides the fact that he's totally okay with farting on me.
It caught me off guard too.
Oh my God.
My parents, they seemed a little uncomfortable.
Barnett is afraid to disappoint. Again, do you remember he was scared to disappoint other girls by making a choice? Same thing happens here. Now he's afraid to disappoint his family. So afraid of disappointment is kind of like his circle here that he kind of needs to not to get stuck and get out of.
I know my brother, and like, he thinks I'm crazy. He's not saying it. He's not saying, yeah, but he thinks I'm crazy.
I know my brother, he thinks I'm crazy. This makes me think that he might have a critical family, because this is not new to him. He knows that his brother thinks this way.
I always compare myself to him and what he has. I'm nervous that he's not going to be accepting of what I'm doing.
I always compare myself to him and what he has, because he's the older. Guys, if you have an older sister or brother, most of the time, the younger sibling looks up to the older sibling in any way. So they're not exactly copy-paste of them, but they really admire them because they are there as a protection from the very beginning. So what they do in their career, what they do in their relationship kind of sets an example for the younger sibling. So the younger sibling has always this respect towards the older one, and in some cases the older one has this parental feeling towards the younger sibling.
You take one side of the table, I'll take the other.
Can I just get under it?
If that's what you want to do.
But we need to remember our boundaries. We are not the parent and we are not the child of that person. We are siblings. It's good to have this in a very balanced level, but in this case, I feel like he's acting like the father of the family. Is like, you're gonna sit in one side and I'm going to sit on the other side. It's just like setting the authority right away there.
Because marriage is the hardest fucking thing I have ever done in my life, right? You don't even realize how difficult it really, really gets. Marriage is about stopping, forgetting about yourself, and making sure that you put that other person before your needs and everything that you do. Are you willing to give up everything for this person?
I mean, it's a little bit extreme, as if I felt like he talks about marriage with children, because then you literally give up on everything. Yes, things are not going to be the same, obviously. Now you need to think for a second person when you're making a decision, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to give up everything you have right now to be with this person. I think he's a little bit of exaggerating because he's taking example from his own life, like what he went through or his friends went through, or a combination of the two. But every marriage has a different dynamic, guys. I've seen so many marriages with different styles. You can still keep your independence and still can be codependent on other things, because you're still two individuals who decided to live together and share a life together, including, you know, a meal together, or the budget together, a house together, and a car together, children together. Yes, that's the hard part. That's the decisions that you need to make together. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your partner doesn't exist without you, or you don't exist without your partner. You are still two different individuals. You have your own interest, your independency, but of course, it's not going to be like a single life. So when someone that you love gives you an advice, of course, they are coming from a good place. They are coming from a safe place, but take it with a grain of salt, because they are speaking from their own experience. Later, in episode 8, they talk about this meeting. So Barnett and Amber are talking about Barnett's family and that visit. Let's see what happens.
And I think I was expecting the worst because I assumed the worst.
I'm always scared to disappoint my family.
Wow, I assume the worst because I'm always scared to disappoint my family.
I always feel like they aren't sure of me. I don't know why.
I feel like they are never sure of me. I don't know why. Guys, if you are raised in a way that, you know, what you are doing is never enough, and also if you have parents with anxiety, this might cause you to become an adult who feels that not enough, and that might cause some insecurity. For example, whatever you do is not going to be enough in the eyes of your family. You could always do better, or you tend to disappoint your family. Of course, we shouldn't put this all on parents, right? Like, it's a whole family dynamic that we don't know, and I don't know Barnett's family. I never talked to them. But if you have a family with high standards, or when the standards are not met, people got punished or somehow dismissed, then adult life of these children unfortunately can be full of insecurities or perfectionism. But perfectionism is a great way of hiding insecurities because you're afraid to make a mistake, you're afraid to make less than of what they expect from you. So you make everything perfect, you make every decision perfect so that there's less chance of disappointment. Here, he's so in touch with his feelings that I think it's about my family. He says that. I think I'm always afraid to disappoint my family. So we know now the root cause of his insecurities.
So what if there is an issue between me and somebody in your family? Can you manage that? Can you stand up to them to back me?
I'm glad Amber brought this up because this might happen, guys, especially in enmeshed families where boundaries are missing. It might cause a problem between the woman in the relationship and the mother or father of the man, or vice versa.
She always says that blood's not always thicker than water. I have to be on her side no matter what. But my family has always been there for me.
Again, we see that Barnett feels like he owes a lot of things to his family.
And I do believe that it's important to have a wife that supports my relationship with my family.
It's important for me that my wife supports my relationship with my family. Yes, I think this is important. I think family relationships are important. But then again, you need to set some boundaries from the get-go because otherwise it gets really entangled and that's not healthy for any kind of marriage. So let's say Barnett's mom said something about their marriage and Amber is not doing things right. She doesn't have the right to say so because Barnett's marriage is different and she is not in that marriage. She's just the mother of the groom. So she has no say in that marriage. She can, of course, raise her concerns to Barnett, or she might be worried, but this doesn't mean that she has a right to interfere with the married couple's business. Same thing for the father, and same thing for the brothers and sisters. And please, guys, don't think that you owe your parents something, and because of that, you shouldn't disappoint them. Yes, your parents love you. They brought you to this world for a reason with their own decision. And of course, they raised you in the best way they could because that was, again, their own decision. You owe them respect. You owe them love, but that's it. You know, in every decision of your lives, your parents are not gonna be 100% supportive. It's impossible because there's generation difference. They cannot see things objectively because you are their son or daughter. It's not going to be like someone else's daughter or son, right? They cannot see things the way that you see. And your relationship is your relationship, your own family. There's a reason why you left your family and you're building your own family. So it's going to be different. It's going to be totally yours without nobody else overshadowing. If you have boundary issues in your family, if it's an enmeshed family, then probably adults who grew up in this family might have a little bit distorted boundary definitions. They might expect too much attention or too much information from their friends, or they might have difficulty saying no to things, and those kind of things are important. Setting boundaries, learning to set boundaries is important. You can still love your family, respect your family, but not get them involved. So this was Barnett, guys. In the second part of this series, I'm going to talk about Damien. I'll see you there next week.